Hi, I'm Karin Neighbors. My husband John and I have 5 children, Ryan, Nolan, Adam, Hannah, and Rebecca. And we've been members at First Baptist Church for about 23 years. This past week we've been reading in Genesis, and we've been learning about Noah and how faithful he was to God, even though he didn't know all the reasons why God was asking him to do some of the things he asked him to do. God asks us to do things sometimes that we don't always know the reason why, and we have to choose whether we're going to be faithful or not, even though we may not know what lies ahead of us. In June, my family and I went to Africa, and I knew wholeheartedly that God wanted us to go to Africa and take our children. A lot of people thought that was a crazy idea, but I knew that that's what God wanted us to do, so we did. We had the most amazing trip. God was working miracles everywhere around us. We were downstairs of the Hope Center the last night of our first week, and just going over how many amazing things God had done. We had had several people be sick, but God had healed them, and everything was looking up. And all of a sudden, one of the children ran downstairs to let us know that my youngest daughter, Rebecca, who was 10, was running a fever. So we ran upstairs. No big deal. We'd already dealt with it several times. She had 103.7. We gave her some Advil and went back to our meeting. Like I said, no big deal. We'd already dealt with it. Another cry came from upstairs that she was getting worse. We went back upstairs. She had 104 fever. We put her in the shower to give her a cold shower to cool her off. We took her out. She had 104.4. We decided at that point that we couldn't wait any longer. We were not near a hospital, and no telling how long it would be before we could get there. So we decided that we would take the 45-minute drive up the very dangerous mountain road to the closest hospital. So we did, and before we left, everybody gathered around her and prayed for her, and a local man there asked if he could pray for Rebecca. And he put his hands on her and prayed like I'd never experienced. I felt like he was trying to take the illness out of his body himself. We got in the car, and Cindy called Dennis while we were on the road and put Dennis on speaker, and he prayed for Rebecca, and that made Rebecca feel so much better. And we took her temperature again. It was down to 103. We continued to the hospital. They admitted her. We got her settled in her room, and then the decision had to be made as to what we would do with our next week. We had plans. Children were waiting for us to come to Bible school, and I was to lead them. And I've never left a child at a hospital in America, let alone Africa. So we had much discussion about it, and this mom was no too happy with the fact that she might have to leave her baby in the hospital. John volunteered to stay with her, and I allowed it, not happily, not very graciously. I left with tears and fear in my heart, and went and did Vacation Bible School. I loved on the children, enjoyed them greatly, but my heart was with my daughter. And when I got back, when I was finally, 2 days later, when I was able to get back to the hospital, I walked in Rebecca's room and saw her little body laying in that big hospital bed. And she said, "Mommy, Mommy, guess what?" And I'm thinking, guess what? You're laying in a hospital in Africa. What's there to guess? And I said, "What is it, sweetie?" And she said, "God used me." Talk about being humbled. Realizing that God had a plan, that you didn't know what it was, and you might have gotten in his way, is very humbling. It turns out her nurse, who was a wonderful Muslim man named Sidi, John got to spend several sleepless nights talking to Sidi about Christ. They still communicate via email, and Rebecca sent Sidi a Bible with Cindy just last week. Sidi says that he sees something special in Rebecca, and he just doesn't know what it is. And John was able to share with Sidi what that was that he sees in Rebecca, and that's Christ. What an amazing gift God gave a very hard mom who was almost standing in his way. And I thank him very much that he used us, even in a way I probably wouldn't have chosen, because God's ways are not our ways, and our ways are not God's ways, and I thank him for that. because I am just a sinner and He is so righteous. I am so thankful that the Lord that loved Rebecca and loves CD also did not allow me to stand in the way of His plan. Are you standing in God's way right now? Are you allowing Him to work through your lives even though you may not understand what His purpose is? Are you just having to trust in Him? I pray that we can all trust in Him the way Noah did, and what a wonderful example he gave us in the Bible.